This is Straley with Jacksonville For Life. Thank you for compliments of Queen of Peace Radio. And before we introduce our guest today, I'd like to talk about two upcoming events in Northeast Florida. First is the March for Life St. Augustine, Saturday, January 16th at 11 a.m. Speakers include Leah Darrow with Reclaiming Truth, Beauty, and Love, Bishop Estevez, and Father Pagano. More information, please visit marchforlifestaugustine.com. Also, March for Life Jacksonville, Friday, January 22nd, from noon to 1 p.m. at the U.S. Federal Courthouse, 300 Hogan Street, across from Hemming Plaza. Signs will be provided, free bumper stickers, free precious feet pins, and yard signs. For more information, call 904-318-3517. These and all upcoming events are listed on our website, jacksonvilleforlife.org, on our upcoming events page. And today we'd like to introduce Laurie with Susan B. Anthony List. She is a Florida State Director. Laurie, thank you for calling in.
Brad, thank you so much for having me on today.
Oh, it is our pleasure. Those who are listening that are not familiar with the Susan B. Anthony List, tell us a little bit about your organization.
Well, Susan B. Anthony List is a national organization who is solely focused on the abortion issue. Our intent is to make sure that laws are passed that protect unborn children and mothers, that legislators are elected that see that as a foundational part of our nation's founding, and to make sure that voters are informed on the issue. We actually have a 6-point mission, and all of this, Brad, can be looked up on our website, which is sba-list.org. And folks can go there and find out all the details about Susan B. Anthony. But our 6-point mission is to elect pro-life men and women, educate voters on pro-life issues, train. We train activists, and we'll go into a little bit of that, what we're doing there in Florida. Promote the traditional myths and distortions about abortion, and advocate for pro-life legislation, and then connect legislators to constituents. As you know well, Brad, I'm sure that the Constitution provides for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Hard to have liberty and pursuits of happiness when you don't have life. So that is just one of the cornerstones. We're very myopic on that issue, and very excited about the campaign that we have in multiple states right now with regard to the elections coming up in 2016.
Yep, and 2016 is here already.
Yes. Yeah, we're 5 days in, aren't we? Happy
right.
New Year.
Iowa caucus in, 4 weeks?
Yes, yeah. 4 weeks from today, right?
Mm-hmm. I believe so.
Yeah. So, hopefully I trust the good people of Iowa to promote and push forward a strong pro-life candidate with regard to the caucus, and hopefully the American people will see that as well as something that is extremely crucial to America and our nation and how we go forward.
Now, how long I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I would love to give your listeners an overview of kind of what our mission is in Florida and in a couple other states, talk about some things that we've done previously, and those type things, but let me know where you want to go.
Oh, you read my mind. That would be fantastic. Thanks, Lloyd.
Okay, so what we're doing in Florida is we are running a statewide advocacy campaign. We have hired literally, and are still hiring for your listeners. If anybody's interested in getting engaged, they can contact me at Laurie, and that's Laurie, at sbalist.org. That's my email. And there's a hyphen between SBA and list. And so, Brad, what we're doing is we've hired regional directors around the state to help manage and train grassroots activists. So our campaign is going door to door to inform the general public on the abortion issue. And so one of the things that we talk about, of course, is the caveat within Obamacare that has the language in there that provides that taxpayer money be used for abortions. And I think that most of your listeners would submit that, you know, as evangelicals, as Christians, as people in the pro-life movement, we don't want our tax money used for abortions. They talk about late-term abortion legislation and those type things. And so we go door to door and ask folks a survey about if they are pro-life, if they plan on voting in the upcoming election, and will they vote for the candidate that advocates for pro-life issues, or will they be voting for someone who is pro-abortion? And so our mission is to identify those voters that will be voting for pro-life, and then after the primaries are over, encouraging those people to get to the polls.
Sounds like grassroots 101.
I'm sorry?
It sounds like grassroots 101. Get out the vote.
Yes, absolutely. And like I said, we've already hired hundreds of canvassers across the state of Florida. If folks are interested, we are still hiring all over the state. Feel free to contact me, and I can put you in contact with the person, the regional director in your area. Where is the reach of this show, Brad? How far you guys reach?
Northeast Florida.
Okay. So we have two or three, so Northeast Florida, Orlando up to, do you go, let's see, Tallahassee? Do you go as far as Tallahassee?
That's a little bit further west.
Okay. So maybe perhaps to Jacksonville.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So literally, the state of Florida has 20 million people, 12 million registered voters. So we're hoping to hit a large portion of those 12 million registered voters and ascertain who is pro-life, who votes pro-life, and who doesn't. And so each of our canvassers goes out each day, hits doors, and talks about the issues that are very important to pro-life candidates. After the primary is over, Susan B. Anthony will work to ensure that voters know the standing of each of the candidates with regard to the presidential race. So we will strongly advocate for the candidate that is the pro-life candidate, and we will strongly advocate against the person or candidate that is the pro-abortion candidate. So if you look at, let's just say, for instance, if the Democrat nominee is Hillary Clinton, we will make sure that voters know that, her voting record, since she was in the Senate, was strongly pro-abortion. And so making sure that they know that. Well, what we found, Brad, is that the American people are very smart, and, they when presented with facts, they make decisions based on those facts. And so we try and ensure that that they get those facts so that they can make informed decisions when they go to the polls.
And that's what voters need. Now, how are you going to, or do you know how you're going to educate the voters about the two candidates?
Yes. So what we'll do is we will end up changing our survey to include, like I said, their voting records. And so, for instance, if the candidate is Hillary, then we would go to the door and say, do you plan on voting in the upcoming election? And, depending on how the person answers yes or no, we would inform them of when the election is. You would be surprised at how many people don't even know when the election is, especially a primary. I mean, we don't get engaged in primaries, but, you find out that a lot of people don't even understand the primary process and that they actually have a voice in deciding who the candidate is to run for president. So that's one of the things that we're doing before the primary, is ensuring that folks know that there is a primary and that they can go vote. And then after that, we'll say, are you more likely to vote for candidate X, who is pro-life, or candidate Y, who is pro-abortion? And then we will talk about the voting record of the candidate who is pro-abortion. And say, do you know that this person voted for Obamacare, which provides for tax-funded abortion? And what we found, Brad, is that when people are pro-life, they are ardently pro-life. So it's a litmus test for a lot of people as far as how they vote. So it's not like you're pro-life on Monday and pro-abortion on Wednesday, right? People don't sway in their belief. It's a very sticking point with most voters. So once voters are informed to exactly what the facts are about the candidates running, we have found that people will go and they will vote for the pro-life candidate. And so we had a lot of success in the last election cycle, and if you have a couple minutes, would love to explain kind of what we did in a few states that I ran last election cycle.
Yeah, let me do this, Laurie, if I may. Let me go ahead and take a quick break, and if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Pro-Life Radio with Jacksonville For Life and Laurie with the Florida State Director of the Susan B. Anthony List. We will be right back. Don't go away. Listening to Pro-Life Radio here in Jacksonville. This is Brad Straley with Jacksonville For Life, and with us today is Laurie, the Florida State Director of the Susan B. Anthony List. Laurie, thank you for being on. You were just about to discuss about the previous or prior successes. Yeah,
Brad, thank you. Would also like to remind your listeners that they can go to our website, which is sba-list.org. And they can email me with any questions or if they need more information at Laurie, which is Laurie, at sba-list.org. Also wanted to let people know that we are hiring pro-life canvassers throughout the state of Florida. We do pay $10 an hour. We do pay mileage. And you can work up to 40 hours a week. So the only caveat that we have, well, there's two actually. One is you must be ardently pro-life, and the second is you must be 16 years of age or older. And so we have all kinds of opportunities. We also need a couple more field directors across the state. Specifically, I know that you guys just go maybe as far as Jacksonville, but we're looking for somebody in the Panhandle area, Tallahassee, Pensacola area. So if you know some strong pro-life folks that would like a full-time job, Brad, from now till election, we would really love to get some great candidates for that.
Great. But, maybe one of our listeners that has a college student out in Tallahassee needs a job in between semesters.
Yeah, that'd be great. That would be great. So talking about last election cycle, we were in 6 states. I actually ran Arkansas and Kansas for SBA for the 2014 election cycle, and we had a great success. Specifically in the state of Arkansas, we started in July, and we hit 144,000 doors from July till Election Day and the first week of November. And so, and made literally hundreds of thousands of phone calls into the state. What we found was not only did the pro-life candidates in the state win, even on the national level, I believe you'll remember that we had a race between a longtime sitting senator, Senator Mark Pryor, who was in that seat, who had been in Arkansas politics for decades. His father held that Senate seat before. The Pryor name had actually been on the Arkansas ballot for more than 30 years. And so you know as well as I do, Brad, that incumbents win 90+% of the time.
Yep.
It's just the way politics is set up. So Senator Cotton really had a race ahead of him. He was a brand new elected congressman, first time public official. And so initially that race did not look good for the pro-life movement. And so what we were able to do was to inform voters here in Arkansas that, you know, when Senator Pryor came home and talked about the life issue, you know, he was adamant in that he personally was pro-life. But what we found was when he went back to Washington and he voted with the pro-abortion legislators. So he voted for Obamacare. He voted for all of those pieces of legislation that would promote abortion. And so when we went to the doors of Arkansans and shared with them these facts, and then gave them a leave behind, a piece of collateral door hanger that articulated that and went down and denoted, you know, this is the bill that he voted for, this is what happened, and look this up. We found that we were able to flip voters in a very high percentage, and hence the outcome of the election. Senator Tom Cotton won that election. They called that race, if you recall, Brad, even before the polls closed. He was so far ahead. And that was a direct result of the campaign that we ran here in Arkansas, and that trickled down the entire ballot. We had pro-life candidate after pro-life candidate that won here in the state of Arkansas like no other time. You know, there was a huge wave in 2010, 2012 of pro-life candidates that won due to the wave of the Republican Party. And so, but what we found with Susan B. Anthony is in state after state, Kansas, Arkansas, North Carolina, Louisiana, that we were able to impact those races because we went door to door. You know, kind of like you alluded to earlier, the Grassroots 101, it's just kind of like campaign 101. You know, the facts of campaigns, I've been running campaigns for a long time, is that 8 to 10 touches per voter is what you need to get your message across. You know, we all know that repetition is something that folks need. You know, that's how we learn our ABCs or anything, is we just keep repeating that same message. So SBA is very intent on making sure that we have multiple touches to voters. We have a very strong canvassing effort. We do phone calls. We do mailers. We have a robust social media outreach, ensuring that we are educating voters on critical pro-life issues and where candidates stand specifically. And I think that's one of the differences between what we're doing and what a lot of other organizations are doing. We get extremely specific after the primary as to where these politicians stand with regard to the life issue. And I really think it resonates with voters because they want facts. They want to know. And there are a lot of people who will do their due diligence in finding out and digging deeper if they're presented with a place to go. And so we give them those starting points, names of bills, the voting record of people that they'll be voting for, and those types of things. So we will engage in the presidential race there in Florida, and we will also engage most likely in the Senate race that has been vacated by Senator Marco Rubio, who is now a presidential candidate.
Let me ask you the question, Laurie. Why you guys do this?
Well, like I stated earlier, Brad, we do this because we feel like the life issue is at the very genesis of what America is about. You know, again, the Constitution provides for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if you don't have life, and we can't make the decision as Americans that life, the very issue of life is essential to our foundational beliefs, then there's not much sense in arguing over anything else if we can't even get that. Just the fact that, you know, protecting the most innocent is just a foundational belief and is at the heart of everything that SBA does. And so we want to make sure that we are helping to get that message out, that we are fighting to ensure that the most vulnerable among us are safe and protected, and that they will be free to be born into, you know, one of the greatest nations that ever existed on the face of the planet.
Now, those who are listening, that, you know, gosh, it's, you know, not November. We're talking about elections. You know, one vote. Does it really matter? And I think, you know, us being in Florida, all we have to do is remember back that the election in 2000, where the difference of either George W. Bush or Al Gore was a paltry. Now, you said earlier 12 million voters in Florida. That election came down to 537 folks. Now, if we can get an additional 537, if those folks, you know, were all pro-life folks who voted in 2000, we ended up getting a pro-life president for 8 years, where we would have had a pro-abortion president for 8 years. And I just continue to think, you know, how one vote can add up. And of course, you've been doing this for a long time. You know, you can see how this helps the pro-life movement. And I wanted to ask you, as a whole, how do you see the pro-life movement now going into the election year?
Well, there's several different things. I see the pro-life movement as really a hinge to the election. Like I said, and how you just articulated, if people that are pro-life would go to the polls and vote, you know, it's astonishing to me that if you look at the evangelical vote or the Christian vote, it's negligible. I mean, those people who profess, you know, Jesus Christ as their Savior, who, you know, profess to be ardent Christians, they don't go to the polls. And I understand, Brad, that people are disgusted with politics. I understand that they're frustrated with politicians. I understand that they feel thwarted by bureaucracy and, you know, the things that make up our political system. But here's the truth about it, Brad. If we don't engage and we don't ensure that our voices are being heard at the polls, you know, it's our own fault. And so as somebody who's been in politics, you know, for nearly 2 decades, I think I get a little frustrated in the fact that people need to understand that voting is the very first thing that we do, the very first responsibility, if you will, as Americans, to ensure our system of government. But then there's the due diligence of making sure, okay, real life example. When we were canvassing for Mark Pryor here in Arkansas, a lot of people thought that Mark Pryor was a pro-life candidate because he always told people he was a pro-life candidate. But when you look at his voting record, he's certainly not. And so I think the pro-life movement has to do a better job of presenting the facts and invoking the realization that it is important, and it's not it's not just a action in futility to go and vote. And so I think that if we were to congeal as a movement, and a lot of times, we've moved into a couple states, and the people that are on the ground there, they get a little hinky, and they get upset, and they don't want to, for all weird words you want to use, they don't want to share the playground. And so my take is, if we're all in the same mission and we're all working together, and SBA comes in with a plan and the ability to mobilize literally hundreds of canvassers in a state, why wouldn't you want to engage?
That's right. That's right.
Well, why wouldn't you want to engage and win? So if the objective is to win, and there's a plan, a proven plan that works, what does it matter who's doing it as long as it gets done? And so we invite everyone in the pro-life movement to join with us, to lock arms, and we have the ability to hire canvassers statewide in mass. I mean, we've already hired hundreds of canvassers in the state of Florida. We've already hit tens of thousands of doors in the state of Florida, and we have only been on the ground hitting doors since October 24th.
Great. I appreciate it, Laurie. We are amazingly out of time already. For those who are listening, you've been listening to Laurie as the Florida State Director of the Susan B. Anthony List. We want to thank you for calling in today, Laurie, and we will put your contact information on our website. For those who are listening, thank you. Until next time, do something, save babies in Jacksonville.